Hello and good afternoon. I am so excited to be here with you all for our Spark Seat today. It's Rachel Rosen, your host and your community collaborator and brother, sister, whatever the case, whoever you are in this community, I got you. And I'm so proud to be here with Jay Pryor, our friend, deep friend and colleague now that I'm so excited to introduce you all to. Jay, you are a light. Like when I first met you, I came up to you, remember, in the lobby there, and I was like, dude, I just have to tell you, thank you. You gave a speech that really touched my heart, and I, in that moment, realized the power of sharing your story on a stage, and you are such a beacon, and you really embody courageous leadership. And so I want to share you with this community and not be selfish and keep you all to myself, because I'm excited for the community to get to know you. You're a speaker, you're a coach, an author, a facilitator. You're an advocate for transgender youth and transgender education. You are also the co-host of Doing the Work with Jay and Becca, a weekly podcast devoted to awakening people to their own power and transforming their lives. Your book, Lean Inside, 7 Steps to Personal Power, a practical guide to transformation for women. I'm excited to check out. I didn't as I was doing research about you, I realized you wrote a book. That's awesome. Um, hey, right on. You live I love it. Yeah, beautiful. And you have 2 children in Lawrence, Kansas, diehard Kansas City Jayhawks fan, talented singer, right? Jayhawks. I can't get it twisted. Um, and you also like cycling. I love that. So welcome, Jay. Thank you for being here. Mm, mm. Thank you. Thank you. Um, and I feel like now more than ever, the purpose of this particular Spark Seat really was to have an unpolished, unapologetic conversation about courageous leadership. No preparation, just 2 people having a conversation about the fact that courageous leadership looks different and feels different depending on who you are and how you walk through the world. And I wanted to spark a conversation in our virtual living room, as I call it here in the community, because it's so important to have exposure to multiple perspectives. And that's really at the cornerstone of what Card Game was created for, which is to be a vehicle, right? For us to share stories and listen to each other differently and realize that we're far more alike than we are different. But if we don't have opportunities to hear and learn and break bread, then we stay in this place of unconscious bias, which is natural, but we make assumptions about what people's truths are. And so that's why I'm excited to have you here. I want us to just lean all in and have conversations that people have either in some way, shape, or form expressed some fear about, or some nervousness or anxiety about, conversations that pertain to transgender rights and transgender education and how people can show up with solidarity. So I'm grateful for you. And I thank you truly from the bottom of my heart for being here and being open to sparking a conversation with this community. Yeah. Oh man, did you freeze again, my friend? Let's see. Can you hear me? Is anybody there? Hmm. Sorry, y'all. Hang tight. We've got a technical difficulty. Coming back to you soon. Let me double check. Double check. It looks like it's still live. We're live. We're live. We're live. I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. You're coming back. Yay. Okay. Gosh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Mm. Yeah, that's exactly right. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Right. Got it. That's deep. Right. 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 Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. Right, 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 right. Yeah. Right, right. See, that's why I love you. That's why we align on this thing that like I believe that people are doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. They really are. And not all of us have tools. And so we're trying to just survive, right? And I think it's an olive branch, it's like, hey, oh, what do I say? I don't have the tools. I'm just going to say this thing and then I'm going to have an experience and you might have a reaction to it, right? Let me try. It seems like we froze again. Let's restart. Let's restart here. Sorry, my friend. Are we back?
Are we back?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. No, it's
Yeah, no, there's something about just the truth of the matter that we are when we're so stressed out and when we have so much on our plate, the first thing we can do if we feel offended is assume the worst intention, because it feels icky on the inside to hear that, right? But what you do is you create teachable moments and you create learning opportunities, and that's not always easy. It requires courageous leadership. So tell me what it means to you. Tell me what courageous leadership looks like or sounds like for you on this. Any given day, it might change a little bit, but on today, March 29th, what does it look like for you?
It means to me to be, I mean, from the trans perspective, it means to be, I've been out forever, and it means speaking up and letting people know I'm trans, because look at me. You don't have, I mean, I look like a regular guy, and my wife is very femme, so we look like a straight couple. So it means outing myself on a regular basis. Like I out myself pretty much if you talk to me for any length of time and I'm going to be hanging out with you at all, I'm going to be outing myself to you pretty quickly. I have a pretty powerful commitment to be known as a trans person for a number of reasons. The main one being I was a suicidal youth, and I have a powerful commitment to make it so trans kids are not the suicidal statistic that they are. So the more I'm out, the more people can ask me questions. They can be more accepting of trans, be more supportive. What we know about trans youth is if they have a supportive family, they're have the same risks as every other kid. But when they don't, they're like literally like 46% more likely to commit suicide than a cisgender kid. So for me, courageous leadership is about being out, willing, but it's also about, and this is not my favorite thing, I'm not going to lie. It's also about being teachable and being willing to embarrass myself and step in it and clean it up and stay in the conversation around all the other things, because I am white as hell. I mean, I'm born a redneck in Kansas. I mean, good God. We didn't even, like,
that's real.
To learn. So it's also about coming to the table with other leaders and being willing to teach them, and also being willing to be a student, both from young people, because I really appreciate, there's a new vibe that people under 30 are creating in our world that is way more gentler, kinder. It's very powerful. People my age have to get their head around it. Right? So for me to be a courageous leader, I have to be the one to say to my people my age, hey, these people have something to say. Let's listen. And I can be the one to be the bridge sometimes. Say they're making perfect sense. We can call them whatever they want to be called, or, we can, let's figure this out. So for me, being a courageous leader means about being out, to take a shot. Like, I'll put myself on the front lines for queer stuff, any day, but also being willing to, get my big feelings hurt if I need to, or whatever it takes for me to learn myself and train myself around my own microaggressions, my own biases, my own silly things I say that I don't even know I'm saying. We're in a world right now where we all are trying to be conscious, but so it's also remaining teachable, I think. And I just try to, I meet people and love them. My theory has always been I will love the transphobia right out of you. I play with people. I joke. I tease them, because I know I grew up with people in a small town of 500 people. It's so weird to them that I was a little girl and went to school with them for 12 years and came back a dude or looking like this, and then I still want to be called a woman. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
I love it.
Really?
Yes. Hey, Coco, I love perfect timing. I love it, because there is no box. Like,
no. Well, they think I'm insane. They're like, what?
Small town Kansas. I can see it, and I will love the hate out of you. I love that.
Right out of you. I'll just keep showing up and loving you. I can do that. I mean, that's the good news is I've been practicing that for 27 years. Right. Loving people right where they are.
It takes practice. Coco says, get it. So, okay. let's see here. Are you frozen again? Oh my goodness. What's up, Be Live? Come on, Jay. Can y'all hear me? I don't understand what's going on with this app today. I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. I'm like rejecting the distraction, but that means I can't pull up my phone real quick. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun.
Back?
Oh, he's back. Yay, he's back. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry about that, my friend.
I just pop out and pop back in. It seems to work. So
it's like our little virtual meetup room. Okay, you can hear us. Jay,
yes.
You are amazing, Coco says, and I agree. So
thank you.
So yeah, Coco, you and Jay, actually, I had very similar experiences when you both shared your stories on stages. That's why the power of a story in a stage, I can't underscore enough. And I think it takes so much courage to put yourself out there like that when the alternative is convenience, when the alternative is comfort, when the alternative is blending in. When you choose to put yourself in your safety out on a limb because of your values and beliefs, it is a powerful thing. And there aren't enough people who do that. That's why I highlight people like you all in this group, because we need more of that. And so how do you, let's start with a moment when it actually was really hard to choose courage over comfort, and what it required of you. And I'm sure there are micro moments every single day because it's never easy, but was there a particular experience that you feel like, because it's a muscle that I think we all have to flex every single day. And so from a small level, or if there was the one critical example that you thought, you know what, that was the hardest shit I've ever done.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, like for me, being out was such I will be out or I will die. That's where I was. When I was 18, I was ready to kill myself. I had already practiced. I tried so many times. But once I got relief for being out, for me, like nothing has ever been that hard. Like once I came out and I didn't end up in hell and my parents didn't hate me and, all those things that I thought were going to happen didn't happen. Then everything else after that was gravy. Really.
Got it.
There's been times when, for the most part, I think the most confronting time, I'll tell you, the most confronting time for me recently is when I had a young person tell me that I can't use the word dyke, and that I call myself a dyke. And so that was really, really interesting for me. And I had to step back and own the fact that I hadn't been being out necessarily as gender nonconforming. I've been using the word trans man, making an assumption that people understand that my definition of that. And then coming to find out that because I said I was a trans man, I use the word man, then I can't, then therefore I can't identify with being a lesbian or a dyke. For this young person, it was very confusing to this young person.
Right.
So, I had just gotten off a stage. Had these kids come up to me and start like literally nailing me. Right. And I just stepped off the stage and I have all these parents waiting for me. And I did not handle it. Like at first I laughed, first of all, because for somebody to tell me I can't call myself a dyke is like, it just makes me laugh. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry.
I am 22 years old when Constant Craving came out. Are you kidding me? I mean, like I have been a dyke, okay? You know what that means, right? So I didn't handle it well because I kind of laughed, like, what are you talking about? And then I realized that I hurt their feelings and that, so I had to do some backtracking as a leader and apologize to those kids. And, explain to them that, as a trans person, you can't tell another trans person how they can identify.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
I don't care if you want to say you're a zebra, whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
So, and so it's interesting. I think for me right now as a leader, that's one of my biggest, I'm a leader in this, but it's also one of my biggest challenges, translating some of the stuff from the younger generation. I just had and not making them wrong for it, right? Figure out how to not make them wrong.
Right.
communicate without having them think they should do all the things I think they should do. Because I have a whole list.
Yeah, I bet.
To do. You could, right? It's not working out that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The other times for me around courageous leadership have been, 1993, March on Washington, were millions of queers walking down the street, and Fred Phelps is there, and the Kansas contingent comes by. And people start yelling shame and pointing at the guy, and being the one to step in front of them and be like, back up. Like,
oh, no. The story can't pause there. Oh, no. I don't know why this keeps pausing. I'm right on the edge of my seat. Jay, can you hear me, Coco? My love? I see. We're coming back. He's back. Okay. Where were we? You were right on the front line, and you said stop.
Oh, no, we were telling them to, because it was getting into that shame, where everybody was going, shame, shame. It's starting into that riot mentality. When people are getting amped up, we could feel it. And having to be the people, me and my leader friends to be like, back up. We're not coming at Fred Phelps the way he comes at us. You know what I mean? Like learning, I debated Fred Phelps on the radio in 1993, right? So,
love it. I love it.
This is we've been learning to ignore Fred Phelps for years. And he's been such a blessing to us because he taught us a lot about
right.
Fred, the only thing worse than being Fred Phelps or, dealing with Fred Phelps is being him, right?
Right. One could probably say the same thing about our president. I don't know. I'm just thinking that there are people who are in a lot of pain. It manifests in a lot of negative, shaming, blaming ways. And it's like, anybody who has that much hate, I'm just like, it must be really sad to be inside of you. If that's what's like coming, if that's what we're hearing, that's only the tip of the iceberg, Yeah.
And just like Fred Phelps, I assert that our president, ultimately, we will find, will do more for us by pushing against us, because what you resist always persists, right?
Exactly.
Will do more for us by pushing against us. Later down the line, we'll see that. I mean, right now it's a little painful. When even my state, the state of Kansas, literally the Congress just put out a statement that they're going to do everything in their power to make it difficult for transgender people to live in Kansas.
Oh, Jesus. This is why we have to have this conversation. It's like, no. What?
We have, our education is falling apart. Like, we can't, but you're going to spend your time making sure my life is difficult. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And they don't even know who they're, I want to take my kids and my wife up there so bad, but I don't have the time to go meet with every damn one of those people.
Right.
I thought about making a video. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I mean, they don't even know who they're talking about. They don't even know what they're talking about. They've got he's got them so reactionary, and it's ridiculous. So the good news is it's not sustainable.
Right. And we will continue to rise up. Like, there's just no question that people stand against hate. Always. The power of love will always beat the power of hate.
Yeah. Always wins.
And it's like, when there's an attack, how do we strategically come together? The state of Texas is not in a dissimilar place. So Equality Texas has started a whole new campaign. It's like, you attack one, you attack all. And it's this new hashtag that's one Texas, all Texas, one equal, all equal. And when it's so deeply personal, and when you're for someone you care about and is in your friend group, but it's not personal for you, how do you show solidarity in those moments? Like, the small ways that people have teachable moments that are not in the trans community, when they hear someone say, oh, that stupid bathroom bill, or when they hear someone say these pronouns, how dare they, to pause and say, hold on, we need to have a conversation about why this is really important for us to be conscious of all the implications underneath this. This is why it matters so much, because even though it doesn't affect you directly, it affects brothers and sisters very much so directly.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, especially right now, and things like this that are popping up, we are being called on to, to really sharpen our focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I assert that there's lots of look over here, so that then we can go fund aversion therapy, right?
Right.
Like it's all this, so that we can go sneak behind your back and do all this other stuff. So how I have always handled that, and I am not somebody who is, in terms of politics, I have friends who are, like I said, I have a friend who works for the ACLU, and I have lots and lots of friends. My personal, the way I deal with that is I focus on where I can educate.
Yep.
I, with a bunch of other trans speakers, go to small towns in Kansas. Mm-hmm. We'll be in Pittsburgh, Kansas on April 7th, for example, which is down where I grew up. Mm-hmm. We go to small towns all over Kansas and have little trans conferences. One-day trans conferences. Now, most of the time we're preaching to the choir, or we're having the few trans people in that community come out. But the trans people in that community are seeing, hey, there's other people like I have someone.
I'm not alone. Oh man, you're frozen again. Come back, Jay. Yay, Anthony. Awesome to see your name pop up. Oh, you're so sweet. It's good to see your name. I hope you're doing super well. As we wait for Jay to come back, he's coming back. I can feel it. There he is. Okay. Yay.
So I was saying that we go to small towns, and we have some, usually we're preaching to the choir. The people who show up are the open-minded people or the trans people, but at least the trans people know that they're not alone and that the other people are like them. And so, I have always not focused on, I don't want to focus on them and all they're doing. I want to focus on what am I doing that is a positive force moving this way, that is actually making a difference, and talking to the actual people who need the support, which are the trans people who need support, or the gender nonconforming kids in small towns all over the country. Right. Like they're the ones who are freaked out right now. So
Exactly. And there's something. Are you hearing an echo? Let me try. Let me try again. Oh my goodness. Be Live is giving me a run for my money today, y'all. Is that better?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. What I was thinking was there are small ways that we can, in showing up and in having face-to-face conversations. This is as close as we can get to face-to-face. I am not about this like social media blast. Let's get into debate on my public Facebook page. Like that does not serve us. There are trolls out there. There are all sorts of people that are armed and ready to do that work. What we need to do is show up to the table as live as possible and have these conversations as human beings, because that's when you really start to see everything so clearly. You see who's not there. You see who chimes in, who steps back. There's so much power in showing up face to face, right?
Yeah, face to face. Yeah.
And starting
that's
small.
Why these small town conferences are so powerful, because bless our woman who created this. Her name is Stephanie Mach, and she created an organization called K-STEP, which is Kansas Statewide Transgender Education Project. And it's just about educating small towns in Kansas and like going down to where they live rather than having them come up here. And it makes it, to me, I would have made a huge world of difference if I was in high school and I'd have had somebody do something like, I didn't even know that stuff existed,
Right.
That kind of, that kind of involvement. I'm also educating. I work with the police departments. I teach at mental health hospitals, and then now moving into corporations and training people around the idea, essentially, that I know you just don't know what to say, and so let's help you figure out what you can say, and then help you start to learn what else you can do that's going to have you be able to be an ally. Because most people want to be an ally, they really do. Right. Most of the time, I've been out for, my first shot of testosterone was April 1st, 2001. So Sunday, right, it'll be 17 years that I've been on testosterone. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have been out to hundreds, thousands of people, and rarely do I have anything negative come to me. Like most of the time now, when I do an interview in a newspaper, I don't go back and read the comments, right? Because that's where the mean people go. Like, they don't want to talk to my face.
Yeah, exactly.
Say mean things behind my back, right? So I always encourage leaders, don't go read that snarky stuff. That's just going to hurt your feelings, right? Go with how people deal with you face to face, because those are people who are willing to actually be in your world and be face to face. Those trolls on the internet, I've had people come up to me in town and be like, "Did you see what those people said about you in the front page of the paper?" And I'm like, "No, I don't read that stuff. Why would I do that? That would just scare me." Like,
that's such a big leadership lesson, though. Like,
why would I want to be scared? That's silly. Like, that's not good for my brain.
Right. And if we could, it takes so much courage and vulnerability to lead and to lead out, right? To always acknowledge. For me, I'm an undercover lesbian. Like, people assume that I'm straight all the time, and it's always a move. Like, just yesterday in Houston, I'll say my partner, like, right out the beginning, and I'll say Leah, just so people know that there's more to the story, because otherwise there's so many assumptions that get made or missed opportunities to kind of teach and listen and learn. And I think there's when you have invisible tensions, which we all do, right? We all have parts of our identities that people don't know about. When we hide it, we don't allow for the courageous leadership moment to happen. And stepping out takes courage, but what happens on the other side is invaluable, because people are with you and they see you, and it's a depth of and meaningful connection that is irreplaceable, And so I love that you mentioned, like, don't look at the comments. It's hard enough to just lead and be courageous in and of itself, but don't put yourself through that. Life is hard enough, right? Oh man, you froze again, Jay. Scott's in the house. Good to see you, Scott. Hey. We're going to get Jay back. I think there's some issue with Be Live today, but not with us, because we're going to keep rolling. Thank you, Jay. You're back. We got Scott in the house. Anthony, so much R2S love. Thank you all for being here. So what questions? I want to hear.
One thing I just want to share, just for fun for you. The very first workshop that I developed on my own, my very first one, was going into sororities with pictures of women like you and pictures of my farm girl friends who were straight, and asking the sorority girls to pick who was gay and who was straight.
I love it.
So they could and the reason I started doing this is when I was 25 years old, 27 years ago. I'm in sororities because I dated girls like you, women like you. Like, I always date femme women, right? And they would they were in the sorority house, and they'd get their feelings hurt because their sorority sisters were homophobic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, well, I'm going to go so I started educating sororities, and then started going in fraternities. My very first paid training was a sorority, a regional sorority and fraternity organization that paid me to come in and educate sororities and fraternities that they had gay and lesbian people among them.
Yes.
Allies, and how to be advocates for them. So I'm still doing the same thing. 27 years later, I'm doing this. It's still gender consciousness, right? Right. Because you being a femme or an invisible lesbian is that's what I always call a femme. My world, that's a femme. And so back in the olden days, we just called them femmes.
Okay.
But like, that's gender consciousness. It's that whole world of, like, you have to be a particular gender looking way to have this sexual orientation.
Right.
Having that conversation.
Right. And it's both, like, unnerving, and it's also like, okay, well, it's a different flavor now. It's a different flavor.
It's definitely a different flavor now. Definitely. Right? It's gotten way better. It's gotten way better. Yeah,
it has. And I think, something that is a consistent theme in all of the conversations I facilitate about inclusion, diversity, intersectionality, racial equity, what have you, is there's a fear of letting go of the past, because we have been conditioned to have a particular what's right and wrong. We have an association with bathroom stalls, and we think, oh my gosh, if there's a man in the bathroom and like, what am I going to do? If they mix the labels, what's going to happen? Or, we believe the messages of just so much media that's crazed with dividing us. And so when we are literally having to rewire our brain every time we see a counter narrative, we're saying, oh, that's not actually crazy. Okay, I can be inclusive. I can live with that, you know?
The worst you're going to deal with is pee on the floor, because men can't seem to pee in a toilet. So that's like,
I'm experienced.
I would so much rather go back to the women's room. I can't even tell you.
It's interesting though, right? Because it's like I'm noticing a movement, at least in Austin and the Bay Area, these two very progressive places where I'll go to a club or a a restaurant or whatever the case, coffee shop, and it says, everyone's kind of making an experience out of it. Some people are putting a question mark, like, does it really matter? Another one's like, we love all people. People are changing the signs. And yet there is this moment when it used to be another sign and you're used to the place that you used to know, and it's changed.
I still walk into the women's room all the time on accident.
Yeah.
It's been 16, 17 years. And I still, on accident, walk into the women's room all the time. I'll be in a stall and won't even notice it until I'm like, oh, crap. I have to hide in there. I have to hide in there until everybody leaves because I can't.
That's so deep, Jay.
I have my ass kicked in women's restrooms and not in men's restrooms because men do not care who you pee with. They don't care. They don't look at you. Women have kicked my ass.
They have?
I've been pushed against the wall. I've had toilet paper thrown at me. Oh, hell yeah. Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
I was in that phase before I started testosterone. Right before I started testosterone, and I was pretty butch. I was not on testosterone, so I would use the women's room. Oh yeah, women are trained to know who's around them, right? And we're trained to know who is around us at all times for safety's sake. Right? So women know if there's somebody else in the bathroom with them, and if there's all weirdness, they're keen on it, right? Men are like in there to pee and get out. They don't pay attention to you. They don't even know you're in there. They don't even look at you. Look, you don't talk to you. Don't look at that.
I love that story because the media feeds us a whole nother story. It's like, it's a trip that, I think we have to be so cautious of what we listen to, and we have to lean into human experience and story, because otherwise it's too much. Jay, I think you're frozen again because I haven't seen you nod your head in a minute. Are you with me, Jay? Are you there? Are you there? Oh, Scott, yes, bathroom talk. This is funny. This is what we do. We keep it real here in the Spark family. What questions do you all have about showing solidarity as friends, as allies? What questions do folks in the community, whether you're here live or you're watching the replay, what are you most curious about? Where do you get stuck the most? We're back, Jay. Good. Sorry that keeps happening. I really want to hear from people. And I think the thing that I hear the most is like, how do I authentically make space for the pronoun conversation? If I'm a facilitator or a teacher, it can be really easy to make assumptions. How do I check assumptions before introducing people in the room? How do I do that organically if it feels so foreign to me? So I'm wondering what insights you might offer around creating space for people to share their preferred pronouns.
I think you have to practice it. I don't think there's anything else other than practice it. You have to practice saying pronouns. You have to practice asking pronouns. You have to practice giving your pronouns. It's foreign to me too. And I give my pronouns and it doesn't tell you that I identify as a woman. So that doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like my pronouns are he, him, his. That's what I prefer. You can call me anything but late for dinner. I don't care.
If you show up late for dinner, though, what happens?
Sorry, yeah. That happened. But it is. I think that, and we're seeing this in universities, in junior highs, and high schools. I mean, it's pretty much standard now. Every class begins with name and pronoun. It's in junior highs and high schools. It's becoming standard. And so I would expect it to become standard in businesses pretty quick. Already businesses from top down are listing pronouns in their signatures, things like that. So I think it's going to become one of those conversations that's just a natural conversation. And it's just those of us that are older are going to have to get on board and just suck it up. Yeah. It's coming.
Yeah. It takes practice though. I like that. 'Cause it's like, start in your circle, just like everything else with Spark.
Yeah.
You know, the game is a listening tool. It helps us flex new listening muscles. It helps us be more active in how we're participating.
Yeah.
And I think as a facilitator, it is really rewiring my brain. You know, I've always held space for inclusion and held space for people to share their identities, but I never realized the importance of creating space for pronouns.
Right.
I just thought, well, I have a space for you to share who you are and what you care about. Let's, you know, so that was a real blind spot for me that I was checked on a couple years ago, even down to, there was a comment about when I was working for this nonprofit, somebody had a comment about in the mission statement, it said his or her potential, you know, and someone said, no, that it needs to be there because we don't know. Not everybody sees themselves as his or her, and or he, she.
And interestingly enough, I was just talking to a friend of mine who went through it, recently had a trans training. In my trainings, I have people turn to the person next to them and tell a story about somebody they know really well, someone like their spouse that they really love and know, but they have to use they, them pronouns. And I just have them practice it then and there. And it's got to be somebody they really know and really love because it would be hard, right? Yeah. You had a question here. Yes, Scott, it does mean every class begins with a name and a pronoun because some people will change their pronouns on the next day or they're different, right? Because demiflex or gender fluid people, they may change their pronoun today. It's different than tomorrow, right? Yeah. Now that's where we get into this world of it's difficult for teachers and people like that. They're like, well, damn it, they should just stick to one, right? They're not going to. So just get used to it. They're not going to. They're not. So I mean, you can fight against that all you want, but that's a lot of energy. Because you might as well just get on board.
It's such a good point. It takes so much more energy to fight it.
Right.
But it's our own wiring. It's our own stuff that we're confused by. Genuinely, like, I am a meaning-making machine. I need meaning. I need boxes. It helps me understand my place in the world, you know?
Yes.
And when a child tells you no, it checks your ego. It checks everything. And you have to make a choice. Do I lean into them or do I trust what's comfortable?
Right. And I think the biggest question is, am I willing to give up being right about you, right? Are you willing to give up being right that I should say that I'm a man? Because, and why are you invested in that? That's the big question. Why does it matter to you? Why does it feel like you need to be right about that? That's why when I go into...
Oh man, you froze again. Come back, Jay. This is a really good question, though, Scott. Thank you for asking for that clarification. Does that answer your question? Are there any other, usually people ask, what's your preferred pronoun today? Okay, you're back.
So what I was saying is that when I go into companies, we also do my lean inside work because that work is about raising consciousness. And we look at how we're wired. And as humans, we wire ourselves to be right about everything. Right? We love being right. It's part of the human condition. It's one of our favorite things. We love it. I mean, we'll have arguments with our spouses and, go to bed angry just to be right about something silly, right? People are wired up for that. So you've got to create an environment, a safe learning culture where people have an environment where it's okay to fail, but also where you're raising consciousness enough that people start to ask themselves, why do I care? Like, why do I care about that? What does it matter? Because why does it? Why does it matter to you how I identify? I've always, it's interesting.
Right. It is, and it is the wiring. It's also the need for certainty. I think there's a real craving that people have around. I have to have clarity. I need information. Okay, so Lori and Scott say they're still confused about what you mean. Every class starts with a name and a pronoun. I think that when you said it starts with a name and a pronoun, it starts with the teacher asking for the kids to say your name and your pronoun today, because kids now, it's normal for kids to change their name on a daily basis.
Yes. Okay. And so I know that that's happening in support groups. and in some schools and in junior highs, that the teachers who are conscious start every classroom by saying, my name is Mr. Pryor, and I prefer he, him, and he, him, his are my pronouns. And then have everybody go around the room and say, I'm Johnny, he, him, his, I'm, Mary, he, him, his, I'm, they, them, they, whatever. People are saying their name and their pronouns. So that's a normal thing that everybody gets to say their pronoun. And it's not, I just know that that's already here in Kansas, that's happening in support groups and some junior highs, classrooms, things like that. So
yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think support groups, that puts more context for the spaces that are particularly, if you're meeting once a week and something changes, if it's every single day, I think Lori's question is like, literally you start the day, a teacher who has 8 classroom periods, 50-minute classes. She says, I would say, hi, I'm Miss Rosen. Today as usual, I'm she, her, and hers. And then see, practice. Right, and then you could have a space, in my experience, I feel like when you know your kids really well, your gender fluid kids, the kids who have said, this is who I am. And so then I would check in with the kids and say, hey, how are you doing today? What, just as they were walking in, what are we going by today? Keeping it a little bit more informal, but I think there are some spaces, especially for smaller classes, where it could be more of a supportive, we're going to all have a round where you say it out loud. Does that make sense?
Yeah. One of the issues that high schools and junior highs are dealing with right now is they will have the kid's name in their roster as their birth name, and then they don't want to be called that.
I know.
And so part of the dilemma right now is, how does the school handle that? And what if the parent isn't supportive?
Yes.
Right? So if Steven wants to be called Mary Jo in school, but at home they're like, oh, hell no, you're not, right? Then, where does the school land? Now, our schools, I'm very proud of them here in my town. They are erring on the side of supporting the child and what they want to be called.
Wow.
But that can get very, and the reason they're doing that is they know the statistics behind when kids have supportive families, how much better they do than when they don't, right?
Yes.
So they are trying to create support for that kid, whatever that looks like, especially if they don't support at home. Right?
Yeah, that's deep.
Having kids being put into foster care or kicked out of their houses, just like gay kids back in the 80s used to. Now it's the trans kids, the gender nonconforming kids, who, at least around around here, I actually had police officers tell me that they're getting called to domestic disputes, and that the parents are wanting to put their kids or give them up and put them in foster care, because I'll be damned if that boy is going to wear a dress in my house. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of stuff, right? So that's why we got, as far as I'm concerned, I'll call you whatever you want to be called. I just want, if that's what I believe is our responsibility.
Oh man, you froze again, Jay. I'm sorry that BeLive isn't operating today. Thank you, Lori, for sharing that. I also am practicing. This is a muscle I've been practicing this year. Once I was conscious to this need. Hey, you're back. Awesome.
I was just saying, I think our responsibility of those kids is to, and if I can be a leader, I have young trans boys. I've met them before, about 3 years ago. I met a bunch of young trans kids, and they told me, you're the only old trans guy we know. In other words, you're the only person that is like me in the world that I can see as successful, and like they just don't know it. So I think nothing else. My job as a courageous leader is to be bold enough to say to their parents, "You better get on board."
Yeah.
To love your kid and to call them whatever the heck they want to be called. And that, for actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the most scary thing for me is when I'm dealing with a parent doesn't want to be supportive, and I have to be the one to say, why are you calling her him?
Yeah.
If she called her, sometimes I'm the first one talking to a parent that actually calls their child by what their child wants to be called. And it throws them off. They're like, whoa, hold up. They'll be like, hey, that's what I'm, not. So that's part of courageous leadership, is being the one who's willing to honor these kids by calling them what they want to be called.
Right. and really check in ourselves. You know, it takes so much emotional intelligence, and you model that so well, Jay, to be in touch with your emotions, to not be attached to a particular story that you're telling yourself, or attached to anger, right? Because anger, frustration, defense, all these things spark when we see someone not loving their child, not showing up as their best self. But to be able to really hold space for them to explore why this matters so much to them. Like, this is their baby. They created this beautiful being. And there's something in our society that has made us believe that we have to live in binaries. And it's not. Like, you need to be really curious with ourselves when we can't be fluid, really, when we can't roll with what the children are trying to teach us.
Yeah. And I think one of the things as older adults that we can do is to be willing to stretch ourselves a little. I gave my brother, I wear a kilt once in a while, and I'd always do on St. Patrick's Day, and I gave my brother an older kilt, and he was trying it on. And he said, I don't think I can wear this in public. Like, I'm afraid of this. You know what I mean? It's like, we have created a world where grown men can't put on a kilt or anything skirtish and not be afraid. Like, come on. Like, so if I have to be the guy out in the skirt, I'll do it. I mean, whatever. I mean, I just feel like if that's what we need to do, it's like, come on. Like, can we just challenge ourselves around this notion for a second? It's silly.
Just a little bit. Yeah. Exactly. What's that?
On the top of the hour.
Yeah, it's time to wrap up. I got so into that bathroom. Scott says, thank you for the bathroom humor and for the answer to their question. Scott and Lori have more clarity. So glad you all were here. Now in this final last minute, what haven't I asked you that you feel called to share? What is something that you feel like our community should, just either know about you or take a moment to learn about, or anything that you want to offer for people to be holding as they leave this virtual living room with us today?
Well, I think we're all on the same page around the idea that we're really ultimately creating a world that works for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think that if I had anything to request of people, it'd be to check for themselves. When can they push their own boundary a little bit and get a little uncomfortable? Mm-hmm. And if they can educate themselves a little bit on their own about what it is to be an ally, so that some of us don't have to pull them up so much, that would be very helpful. That kind of stuff. It's like, educate yourself and come join me in this conversation, so I don't have to drag you along with me, right? Yes. And be willing to fail. I think that's the other thing, is be willing to say something silly and stay there and step in it and figure out if that's, I have people ask me the dumbest stuff, and I usually just laugh at them and end up getting them to laugh with me. But not everybody's going to laugh with you. So if you step in it, stay in it, and let yourself grow, and then but don't quit, because that's the thing, is I think what happens is people get fragile and then they quit, and then they don't want to play anymore. And we can't have that. We don't have time for that right now. We need everybody. We need everybody right now.
We need everybody.
On the court.
Yes. That's right. I know I'm going to look up Kids Stuff and support them. If you think of any other organizations that we can support, follow, please, we'll comment in the below here with your website and stuff like that. But let me know and let us know. It's been such an honor and just a beautiful thing to have this conversation with you, Jay. I'm so grateful that you joined us in the Spark group for this conversation. I learned, I was stretched, I laughed, and that's what the beauty of this community is. So thank you so much. Oh no, you froze. I'm going to keep the heart up. If you come back, if you can hear me, if you can see me. So much love for Jay. And if anyone watching the replay have questions and you want to know answers, if you want to engage more, please comment and we will keep the conversation going. Okay. Final word, Jay. Much love to you. I'm sorry for that again.
No worries. It's great to be with you. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, see ya.
All right, until next time, everybody.